Next generation. I'm Bishop Jerome Jones, and once again, I want to thank God for this time to be able to come with you and share with you concerning the mission and that is being done in nations around the world. Well, this is another beautiful day that the Lord has made, and we are certainly rejoicing and we're certainly glad in this day. We are currently ministering in nations throughout the world, and I am so thankful that God has given us an opportunity to help men and women, boys and girls, mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers. And I want to take a time, just a little time, to share with you some of the things that God has allowed us to both witness and what He is enabling us to do. I was here on a broadcast and I read some of the letters that people were sending me from different nations around the world. Well, coming the 24th of this month, there is a relaunching of the broadcast. It has to be certified, or it has to be done again or paid for again. That's all it is. It just got to be furnished with the finances. But the broadcast is going all over the world. Jesus said, "Go ye therefore into all the world and preach the gospel, make disciples." And He told us as a body of Christ that we were to do that all the way until He come. And we are so grateful today that the broadcast of reaching the next generation, the broadcast of Bible Teachers International, the broadcast that is coming forth from the ministry here, is going into nearly 200 different nations coming this 24th of July. Sundays at 3:30, we're going to be on television in nearly over 100 million households. And this is just absolutely a phenomenal door opening for the gospel to be spread to the lost souls of the world. There are many today that don't know Jesus Christ. They don't know Him. They are in remote areas where they have not heard of Him. And in a lot of the rural, remote areas, broadcasting is not done by the major operations in the faith. And therefore, there's a vast amount of people that are not hearing the message. We are thankful that those days are changing. We have been given the insight, and we are going into nations around the world. And when I say nations around the world, I'm talking about going into Russia, going into Ukraine, going into Mozambique, South Africa, going into Iraq, going into Syria, into Libya, into Egypt, Ethiopia, into Morocco, into Algeria. We're talking about going into all of these nations. Now we're not. Now let me just make sure I get this in the right language, because we already have gone and we are already in nations around the world. And when we are talking about this, we're talking from the position that we are now expanding, and will be in over 200 nations, millions and millions of households right here in the United States, and then millions on the continent of Africa, in the continent of Europe, in Europe and in Asia, all over the world. English-speaking nations are nations that either speak English or have English as their second language, where they can thoroughly understand the word. So we are doing what Jesus commissioned the church to do. And I'm so thankful that we get an opportunity to do that. And in the operation of preaching the gospel, in the operation of going there to tell them that God so loved the world and that God so loved you, that he gave his only begotten Son, that if you would believe in him, you will not perish, but have everlasting life. That's a message that's still relevant today. However, when a person is dying of hunger, when they're dying of because they're drinking disease infested water, that message cannot resonate with them. Not coming from someone that does not treat or attempt to treat their physical situation, and so what we at Reaching the Next Generation is doing, we have established a mission and several missions that not only go in and preach the gospel, but go into these nations and identify those that are in extreme poverty. We cannot, or we are not sufficiently in charge of the resources that can meet the need of every situation. So it's like a doctor that goes into the ER room and he has 15 patients. He has to get to the patient that is most critical. He has to do that. All of them are important, but there are some that are on the verge of dying. And the doctor has to treat the one that is closest to death. And that's the way it is when we are working in missions and we are encountering people that are just in such horrific situations, and it's a multitude of them, but we have to identify those that are extreme. And that's what Reaching the Next Generation is doing. That's the system we've established in Africa. We've established a banking system. We've established all the intricate parts that is needed to be in place to guarantee that we can help those that are in extreme situations. And so what we have done, we've identified what the need is. Right now, the primary need is food and clean drinking water. That's number one. There are so many people in Liberia that is illiterate. Only 15% of that population has an education. And one of the reasons they don't have education, among the reasons, well, the major reasons that they just come and recovering from a civil war that was brutal. And now they also have they've been battling ever since Ebola. They've been battling that, and they have lost, parents have been lost, children have been abandoned. Their poverty level has taken a deep dive to it is really, really extreme. And there are no clean water in much of the land, and people are drinking water that they take a bath in, that animals take a bath in. Now, I want you to think about that. They're drinking this same water that the animals and themselves have to bathe in, and they're getting sick to the point of dying because they don't have any means to take care of themselves medically. So we are looking at that, and we went to universities, we went to trade schools, went to regular academic schools, and we talked to the teachers and we talked to the professors, and in every case they said to me, the number one issue here is we can't get people to stay in school. And one of the professors said to me, says, Bishop Jones, if I had 100 students right here in front of me, and if I paid for those 100 students to come to this university and paid every cost associated with them coming to this university, he said, I would be really blessed to get one of them that would finish the course, that would finish to get their graduation. I would be blessed to get one. And so I asked them, well, what is the problem? He said, it's not because they don't want to go to school, not because they don't love school. They have a passion for school. They want to go to school over and above so many other things. So then you ask, well, why, if you pay for them to go, why don't they go? He said the reason is because they get sick because they don't have food and they're drinking impure water and they cannot stay in school. He said another reason is that because they don't have food, their parents have to send their children out to slave labor in order for them to have a meal to eat at night. So they can't stay in school. They miss 2 and 3 months at a time. And so many of the parents are old and don't have anything either. And so we are addressing that. So what Reaching the Next Generation did and is doing, we first established a system of procedures for how we're going to minister in those nations. And so the first thing we're going to do is identify what is the top priority that would help the people. And the first thing we put on the list was food and clean drinking water. We have to supply food and clean drinking water to the people. And that's what Reaching the Next Generation is doing. We're providing food and clean drinking water. Now, when I say food, we're not talking about lobster and shrimps and all of that. But we are saying it is a real banquet compared to where they are, because many of the people there have nothing to eat. When I say nothing, I'm not talking about a little. Many of them have nothing. Many of them go for days without eating. I met with one of the ministers that we are supporting and helping, and he had been 6 days with no food. He had contracted malaria and typhoid fever, and he was really sick, just really, really in a critical situation. And we got him food just in time. We got him food, just sent him food the other day, sent him money for his food, and he went straight and got the food. Well, the Lord has recovered him from being sick, and he is moving on in ministry. But it's those kind of situations that we are confronted with all the time. So what we're doing is saying food and clean drinking water. And if we are asking you to give up a meal for a starving family, sacrifice a meal. If you have a heart to help those that are poor and needy, underprivileged, then just take one day out of your 30 days food and give that day to save the lives of babies, of young children, mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers. That one meal, we're not talking about you going into your pocket and giving hundreds and thousands of dollars. We're talking about give up one meal. Now that needs to be a pause right there. Which one of us today, that if we could give up one meal out of the 31 days or 30 days in a month, if we give up one day of eating, and that one day will save babies, young children, mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers, and it wouldn't cost us a dime more, which one of us would not do that? See, that's what I want us to see. Saints of God, friends and well-wishers, this is where we are. We can make a big impact in the lives of multitudes around the world if we would just stop eating one day and give that to save lives. So I want to say this about that. When we look at the Word of God in Isaiah chapter 58, when it talks about the fast, in that fast, he tells us to deal our bread to the hungry. See, that's the sacrifice. Let that bread go out from you to those that are hungry. So what does that say to us? That says that if we would fast one day out of the month and give that food to feed the hungry, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of lives would be saved. We'd be able to continue to preach the gospel and bring people not only back to life from a natural standpoint, but bring them into a spiritual life of life everlasting. We're talking about one meal. Now, I hope if you're getting this broadcast, I hope if you're listening to me and watching me, some of you are getting it on a podcast, I hope you won't just take this up as there's another request, a call for monies and etc. I hope you will take time out. I don't care what you are doing. I don't care how much you have given. I don't care how much you are giving right now. I want you to look at this from God's position. See, it is God that has enabled me to do anything that I do. It is God that has blessed you to do anything that you do. This is God's work, and these are the saints of God. There are many of these individuals are born again sons of God. They are brothers and sisters in the Lord. And I am saying to all of us, which one of us would not give a 1 day's eating out of the month to save a dying family? Which one of us would not do that? Because that's how simple and that's how easy it is for us to do it. It's not a complicated thing. And God spoke this to me very clearly sitting right here before I went to Africa. He said, tell the body, if you go back, you look at the tapes that I did. You can look at the flyers that I posted. Fasting for the hungry and homeless. If we would just give up 1 day's eating. See, what we consume in a day would feed 10 people several days. So when we give up that 1 day, it is multiplied like the fishes and 5 loaves of bread that was multiplied when the little boy gave it up and sacrificed it so that Jesus could use it. I'm asking you, everyone that is watching, you may be the apostle, you may be the prophet, you may be the evangelist, you may be the pastor or teacher or bishop, or you may not have a title at all. And every one of you on the podcast that's listening, I'm asking you, will you give up 1 meal, 1 day, and help feed the poor and needy men and women, boys and girls, babies around the world? Would you just give up 1 meal? So let me show you how that works. Let's say now there's 30 days in the month. I'm going to eat, as I normally do each day, 2 times a day, whatever, I'm going to snack, I'm going to do whatever that I do in the course of a day. Just think about that. All I've got to do to save lives is don't eat 1 day. That's all I have to do. And take that I would use to consume myself and give it to those that are hungry and dying for the lack of food and the lack of clean drinking water. That it would not have cost me 1 penny more and yet I would have saved lives for the glory of God. Now, let me ask you something again. How many of you cannot do that? How many of us cannot do that? I can't sit here and tell you that I couldn't do that. See, because I can do that. There's no way that I can say I can't not eat one day out of the month. And that's what God showed me. He says, everyone that I bless to eat every day can give up a meal every month for the starving and the needy around the world. And he said that to me months before I went to Africa. And he's been repeating it over and over. And so I want to say to you today, help us, help me in particular, help these men and women. We have a family now. I made up the list of the different families that we are already supporting. We have a family, Olu, we're supporting that family. Mark, we're supporting that family. We have Lisa Moses supporting that family. We have David supporting that family. Cephas supporting them. Laureen Turney supporting that family. There are 14 families already, and we are moving for 200. And when we say we're supporting them, we're saying we're supplying them with food to eat and clean drinking water. And that's for a whole year. We're going to support them for the year. And while we're supporting them, we're also providing them with education so that they can get a trade from a vocational school, or they'll go to the university. We have all these things already in place, already going on. We got boys and girls in trade school now, boys and girls in the university now. And the reason for that is so that once our year's support is over, they will have a vocational trade so that they can already have their own business established or job where they can support themselves, support their own families, and they also now have to pay it forward to another family. And so that's how we're going to multiply this reach into families after families after families after families around the world. Each one that we are supporting have to pay it forward to another one. The first monies that they make, we have a group now that's taking video productions, they're taking sound, they're taking lighting. And one is taking the video productions, which we put them in. One is taking sound, we put them in. One is taking lighting, we put them in. When they all graduate, they're going to have that business together, and the first 2-3 projects that they make will go to pay it forward to another family. That's how this system that we've set up is working. And the professor at the school has already given them jobs to work on films that he has in his backlog. So we're not only getting them trained, but we're getting them into the job market, into the business market, so that they can impact their community. And these are brothers and sisters. Both of these, all three of these young men are ministers of the gospel. They're all evangelists. And until we met with them, 2 of them had never slept in a bed, had never seen the inside of a shower. So I'm trying to tell you that there's so much that we have been doing to impact these lives, and the things that we take for granted, it causes us not to be as appreciative as they are. But it's a real impact when you can help them. And so that's the way our system is. And then we are also enrolling students in a 4-year college where they'll be able to attend college, get a bachelor's degree, and the credits are only $8 a credit, the lowest in the nation. And excited about that because God has got some great things in store for that university and for Christ Chapel and for Prince Johnson and the staff that we have working, that we are part of the team there. And so we're excited about what God is doing, but we need your help. Saints of God, this is the critical hour. And I know what I'm hearing. And I know oftentimes I'm hearing, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's all irrelevant if God brings this to your front. It's all irrelevant. What God is saying, because he said this before, which one of us cannot sacrifice one meal a month to save a dying person? Let's not be like the priest and the Levite was. Let's not be that way. Let's make sure that we are identified like the Samaritan was. You know, I have, and I thought I should have had it right here, but I literally have a pictures, not just one, of a young man that put a rope around his neck and jumped off of a barrel and hung himself to death. And the pastors woke up the next morning and came out and found him. And their note was, "I'm tired of being hungry." And saints of God, these are real people. These are real situations. And so I want to encourage you, don't just pass by this broadcast. There's things in the description. If you're on the video broadcast and if you're on the podcast, you got the website there. You can go to the website and you can see what this ministry is all about and how you can help with your gifts to save lives. You also have our ways listed here that you can give. And we're asking you to do it now. You can give at the Cash App. If you're in the United States, the Cash App works there. Zelle works from different countries around the world. PayPal works from countries around the world. And you can give in any of those methods. The website is the Bible is the Word of God.com/donations. And if you go there, you'll be able to see many more pictures. You'll be able to tour the entire website and see what it is that this ministry is doing in its reach into the nations around the world. I am so thankful to have a chance, to save lives. And that's what God has called the sons of God to. We are the salt of the earth. And so we are so blessed by God's grace. And I hope that you will partner with us. Will you do it today? I got to leave now, but I'm Bishop Jerome Jones, and I'm saying to you that are watching and listening here and around the world, if you go with God, God will surely go with you. And until the very next broadcast, have yourself a Jesus-filled day.